Hello, people of Earth. This is Tesco with Rip Kenny and Trap Jesus, and you're listening to the Human Music Podcast. Woo!
Human Music Podcast. I like it.
What's up, humans? It is the Human Music Podcast, back with you one more again. I know y'all listening to this in the future times, in the after, but here in the present, we just went through something crazy. They call it Black Friday.
Dun, dun, dun.
Cyber Monday. And I'm curious what my cohorts here bought on those crazy deal days. I want to know what cool tools you got that I get to be jealous of for the rest of the year that I didn't get a good deal.
You want to kick it off, Rip Kenny?
Yeah, so your boy's balling on a budget this year. So I bought one thing, which was just a tuner for my guitar.
Right. That's a good thing to have.
Next question.
So now you can play at 43.2 hertz or 432, and you can play at the woke frequency.
Yeah, to be fair, I bought like a nice one, like one that like plugs in like in line from the guitar to the amp, and it's a
Want to show it to us?
I don't have it yet. I just.
Oh, it's not. Of course, yeah, duh. We're right. That whole part.
It's a polychromatic strobe tuner. So for all you guys that are like very interested in this guitar tuner, I know you are. A strobe tuner is the most accurate type of guitar tuner in my limited research, and polychromatic means that you don't just tune one note at a time. You literally just strum all six, and it'll show you which strings are out of tune, so you don't have to like fucking go through all of them. Yeah, and it'll like have saved tunings. Obviously, you can like say I want to play drop C or drop G if you're Tesco and a fucking baller. And yeah, so it's super nice. It's normally, I actually did get a deal on it. Normally it's like $150, which seems stupid for a tuner, but it was $80, and it's accurate to like 0.02 cents, which for you math nerds out there, 1/5000th of a semitone. So these guitar tracks you're hearing on this new one are going to be recorded with precision.
I've been waiting to hear in tune Rip Kenny music. Fucking with you, but that's cool. I mean, like honestly, like $150 to be able to strum all your strings and have a robot tell you which one's not right. Like what? That's badass as fuck. You don't have to just go bing 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 bing.
What is my purpose? You tune guitars.
Oh, okay, cool. That doesn't seem as bad as passing butter.
Yeah.
Oh man, badass. What about you, Tesco?
So yeah, I also, every year I realize how much more it is about the skills than it is, the products. But there were just some things that I felt like would be worthwhile this year, and I got a little Alter Boy, nice little plug-in. It's very nice. Yeah, we can nerd out about that in a sec here. And FL Studio. It was what I first started on before I switched to Ableton. Ableton is always number one, baby, especially with 11. God damn, it's gonna be beautiful. But I work with a lot of people that use FL, and the workflow is totally different. It's really fun. It's actually been very frustrating learning the shortcuts. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not even going to go there, but it's awesome to connect with the students I've been working with that are on FL, and we keep it pretty DAW independent as far as concepts go. Music is like writing good music is DAW independent, but just being able to connect with more people and share some more FL exclusive tips with y'all, I think that's worthwhile investment.
Yeah, I think Ableton is burning holes in the back of your head right now.
Yeah.
You bastard. How could you?
I mean, when 11 comes out, I'm gonna have to, I'll come back to FL. Oh, and how could I forget? It was a bit before Black Friday, but hella Rip Kenny merch. I'm so stoked for that to get here.
If anyone,
I'm decked out.
still wants a good deal on it, even though it's past Cyber Monday and your sale has officially ended, hit me up. I'll like just go into the site and modify the prices for you and give you some extra holiday discounts because
Yep,
I want people to have the gear, man.
maybe the day this drops, in I guess 2 weeks from recording day, we'll just reopen the sale, like do the holiday sale prices,
Yeah, absolutely.
starting on December 14th. Is that is that the Tuesday?
Like that.
Something like that. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
there's
check my
some good
calendar.
stuff
It's
in
right
there.
here.
I
I'll
dig the
Oh,
designs,
the
my friend.
15th.
yeah,
December 15th, the day you're listening to this, if you're on top of shit, is the day the holiday sale starts.
Woo-wee.
All right. And speaking of which,
Yeah, how about you?
well, real quick, as long as we're talking about December 15th sales, I'm just gonna make an executive decision for us. If you're on our email list, you might have gotten that email that said we had the craziest deal we ever did. We sold 3 huge packs that should have been $70 for $10 on Black Friday. And so shouts out to the people, all our awesome humans who got that deal. And on Cyber Monday, some people hadn't gotten that deal. Some people didn't pull the trigger. I don't know why. I would have. But we offered it again on Cyber Monday for $15, and a bunch of y'all jumped on that. And we appreciate y'all so much. But, I'm just going to say it. Today, when you're listening to this, December 15th, we're going to do another launch that is $20 for these 3 huge packs, the Get Dead basses, the Spice It Up percussion, and the Spice It Up Foley. And we're going to throw in a Spice It Up bonus pack that gets an unreleased Luke Rain and Porch single, and my project stems, and for you Reason nerds like me, the Reason session I did that shit in. So
Damn, how many samples is that, Luke?
overall, there are 2,424 samples.
God damn.
And that is not including the project stems.
And all the bonuses.
Yeah,
that's like one Spotify stream per sample. You could literally upload all those samples to Spotify and get your money back.
In Splice terms, that is 2 years of Splice membership. Like, what's that? $192 for $20 in one day.
That's hot.
You're welcome, humans.
Yeah.
Happy holidays, whichever one you feel like celebrating or ignoring.
Precisely. I wanted to jump back to FL. Dude, FL has some sick stock plugins.
Yeah. And I really like the sequencer in it. And man, the MIDI editing is out of this world. Like, I cannot wait to cook up some MIDI for all of y'all and hook up our humans with that and just melody loops and stuff. Man, you get a strumizer, you get an arpeggiator directly in the MIDI.
Really?
You can yeah, dude, it's so nice. There's so much stuff you could do. You could if you have a long MIDI note, you could slice it up to like do like rolls and stuff. It's beautiful.
That's lit.
Wait. Say I have a whole like chord progression and each note is a bar. You can slice that with one move into just everything's eighth notes.
Mm-hmm. And you can also strum them so they sound human and edit the velocities so they sound realistic.
Dude, I've been asking for that for so long to no one but the air in my studio. But dude, seriously, I can't tell you how many times where I'm like, no, I want to make this like a stabby thing. And you got to go through and it's like every chord. And I never write chords that are just a bar. It's like this one's fucking half a bar and this note overlaps. And it takes like 25 minutes to turn that complicated progression into like stabby eighth notes. And then I realized I liked it better the first way. And then I bang my head against my computer and cry.
Oh, you know what else is so beautiful? You can have multiple arrangements in the same project file.
Wait,
so like in your sequencer up top, you click arrangement 1, and then like you can lay out your song however you like it. And then if you're like, this is cool, but what if it was like different arrangement? Then you can hit arrangement 2 and it opens up a new sequencer for you. So you don't have to make like 2 versions next to each other. You just have like a little selector where you could like try out different arrangements, or you could have like one that you do for sound design. And dude, it's so beautiful. They have a shortcut. What is it? I wrote it down here. It's like Control Shift C and Control Alt Shift C. You can just consolidate shit like straight in the sequencer, either from the start of the clip or from the start of the MIDI sequence, or from the start of the song itself, and you could just bounce it out directly in it, and then it just makes a channel under it like it's grouped, and it just like bounces out the audio for you, and then you just like swap them, and then you could like just hide the MIDI.
You know, you can just freeze it and then option drag the audio down to a new audio track, right?
Yeah, but it's like, it's really nice for when you have like more complex stuff. Like in Ableton, if you have shit grouped up, you have to resample and like listen to that 2-minute loop.
True.
Yeah, every DAW seems to have like total superpowers, and then obviously it also has some like blind
Big
spots.
flaws.
I haven't figured out what the other DAW is doing yet.
Like Control B for duplicate. Why, for the love of God? Why?
Control bastards.
Yeah.
Yeah, is B? Is that in
Control B.
Ableton, or is that in
No, that's
FL?
Fruity Loops. It's Control D
Control.
in a, or
Yeah, it's
yeah,
Control D and Reason too.
as it should be.
Yeah, why wouldn't it? Why would it be any other thing than D? Yeah,
Yeah.
all right. What are you gonna do?
Anyway, yeah, FL's been pretty sick. I'm stoked to put out some FL content for y'all. But Luke, you want to talk about what you picked up?
Oh yes, son. Yes, I do. So I actually I picked up quite a few things. I was not intending to at all. I mean, I ended up after seeing folks in our private Facebook group pick up little altar boy, and you and somebody else were fanboying about it. I had been
Shout
thinking
out
about it for a
Lance.
while. Lance, yeah, shouts out to Lance. And I was like, man, I really feel like I should have this. I love doing pitchy vocals, and I can definitely hear the algorithm a little bit when I just straight pitch shift it. And depending on what I'm doing, sometimes that it's not bothersome, and sometimes it is. And I've been thinking I need a better solution. So I got that. And while I was on the Sound Toys website looking at the crazy deals, I also saw Decapitator had a crazy deal. And so I was like, ooh, it's twice as much as Little Altar Boy still, but I think I need to pull the trigger, because that's something quite a few of my homies swear by. Like, they'll just throw it on their drum bus or whatever and give everything that extra little bit of punch. And yeah, I've used it. I used it once on a remix that probably dropped today actually as well. My Spider Hound's I Love You Like Dojo Classic is being released on the Producer Dojo Remix a Dojo Classic cipher. Shoes and I did a collab on a beat probably like 2 years ago, and then maybe like whatever 6 months ago, or it was like right before the lockdown, so I guess like 9 months ago now, Jesus, we were working together and found that beat and opened it up, and we're like, oh my god, this beat is fucking sick, this cool like reggaeton moombaton thing. We're like, it needs a vocal though, and so we go on Splice and start clicking through vocals, and like the third thing we click is I love you like la 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 la. And I'm like, Spider Hound, I know where you got your shit. And I like texted him immediately. I'm like, I'm remixing your song. He's like, oh, cool. Thank you. So Spider Hound remix coming probably today, at least this week. But yeah, rock and roll on that shit. Might have come out last week. I'm actually still unsure of what the release date is. But so I used Decapitator on that, rock and roll. And then I have been racking my brain trying to get this Trapsmith, Merry Trapsmith EP, my trap instrumental Christmas EP that will have come out a week ago by the time y'all are hearing this. And I have been killing myself. The bells I was using to do the melodies had all these weird resonant frequencies, and I was just racking my brain with EQs and like had gone through like 10 versions of the mix, you know, and was just getting fed up. And then I said, oh, screw it, Soothe is on sale. I bought Soothe 2 and slapped it on the instrument bus and turned 2 knobs, and the songs were ready to go to distribution. It's like, okay,
Pretty
why have I
crazy.
been avoiding spending this money for so long? That was so worth it.
Dude, I'm so happy Soothe 2 is like pretty easy on your processor, because oh my god, do I abuse that thing. It ends up on so, I mean, you guys know my music and my process. Over distort to the point where it hurts everything, and then figure out how to use it. Soothe 2 is like the only way that works now. I don't know how I did it before. Actually, I do. Like we're like literally
Painfully.
bounce, listen to it on 3 different systems, make tiny changes to the EQ, bounce it again. Nope, still a little piercing in this range. Keep going. Now it's just Soothe, bada bing, bada boom. I literally think that plugin alone has contributed to like a percentage point increase in sound quality of my mixdowns.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, one really
least
cool
easily.
thing I like with Soothe too is putting that delta mode on and cranking it all the way and getting all of those most painful frequencies, because they're gonna stick out to your ear the most. And if you do it on like a vocal or something, you get this like comb filtery ghosty vocal, and you just like stick it in the back and you can like reverb it a bit, and it just like, you know, that delta mode, it just gives it such a weird texture. So it's like, you know, we always talk about contrast. Like once you learn how to do all these things proper that people tell you about, it just becomes a tool in your arsenal. Part of the mastery is like also knowing when to break that rule. So like, yeah, Soothe takes out all the bad crap, but you could also just crank that and use that as an effect. And now
Yeah.
you have all of those frequencies that stick out. You don't even need to mix this element loud. Your ears are going to catch on to it.
And just for anybody that doesn't know what Delta mode is on Soothe, Delta mode is where you're only listening to the difference between the original and the soothed out track. So it's you're only listening to the resonant frequencies that Soothe is pulling out. It's you're just hearing the change. Delta means like the change between two things. And so that's what Tesco's talking about. There's a function, it's in the bottom kind of middle next to the bypass button. You hit delta, and then you're only listening to the frequencies that Soothe took out for you. It's meant so that you can like hear like, what am I taking out? Am I taking out too much? Is it the right things? What was I hearing before? And it's a good ear training to just like click on and off and hear what the difference is. Just like it's a good idea to bypass your plugins, but man, Tesco always coming with the sick ways to like break your tools in interesting ways to get different kinds of functions. Like fucking salute, bro.
Just do the wrong thing and find a way to make it work. Like this is what I tell people too all the times. Like if you're making bass music, it feels like the move is always sidechain, and it is, except for when it's not. For example, like your buildups. Do your buildups need to be as tightly sidechained as your drop? No. Like typically, what I like to do is like just roll off my side chain, so when the kicks start going faster, it's like not side chaining anything. And now, I mean, what's the purpose of side chaining if you think about it, right? It's to create order out of the chaos of all of these elements. But in a buildup, you want this like mush of sound before things get clean again. Cut that out, and now it's like, here's this rule everybody's telling you: always sidechain, always sidechain. It's like, well, what about if you want to contrast sidechain with no sidechain strategically? You know, it's like all of these wrong ways to do stuff. Like people will say never boost highs. Well, what about when you want that phasing? You know, like always question why you're doing these things and
Yeah.
find creative ways to break it. That's how you get like the craziest sounds.
Yeah, absolutely. And as far as you know, side chains on a buildup, the way my mixing template is set up, I've got my kicks and snares in one group and my percussion in a separate group, and then they sum into my overall drum group. But my sidechain key, like what the sidechain is listening to, that's ducking my basses and my leads, is just the kick and snare group. So often I will take my build up kick and snare, which are on a separate channel than my drop kick and snare, and I'll just tuck them into the percussion group instead of the big meaty drop drums group. And that way they're not triggering the side chain at all, just like you're talking about. I think that's a really good point. Like side chaining is an incredible tool, but it's really important to know when not to use tools. Like sometimes you need a hammer, and sometimes, good God, don't hammer that.
Yeah. Man, you know what else I've really been liking rather than sidechaining lately? Just shift everything off the grid instead, like your subs, 808s, whatever. Just shift them off like 30, 50 milliseconds, or just like slice off that first part of the sound and just leave a total silence. And if you do it right, you can't even hear it.
Yeah, I definitely often do that. Like a track I just finished yesterday, one of the Trap Smiths tracks, it sounded better just to roll the front off of the 808 because the 808 kind of had a beefy kick to it. But I replaced that kick with a kick that was a little more in tune with what I was going for the song. It had the vibe I wanted, and it had a little more thump to it. And then I just like grabbed all of the 808s in the track and then just rolled all of them off. And I just looked at the waveform of what the kick was doing. Like, all right, how long does it take this kick to be nothing? All right, at that moment that it's nothing, the sub is full. And like you said, it's transparent. And that is essentially a shortcut of what you're doing with the sidechain compressor anyways. As long as it's like you dial in that release time so that it rolls off right when you want it to, and it's a transparent move.
Totally.
Anytime I'm working with an 808, that's usually what I tend to do, just because I like having that control over how the 808 sweeps in, because it's more important than like just a kick and a sub. Like you want the sub to pretty much be there when the kick is not, and that's like your criteria, right? You just don't want them to overlap. With the 808 though, there's like a fine balance of like the thud and then like the woomph, like the wash of like the sub into it. And I just feel like you can get it more natural or just like more precise when you're just doing the volume fades. I like that.
One thing I really like too that Dylan shared with us was putting your kick and sub on the same audio track, and you get the tail of the kick's waveform overlapping, so it's like
crossfade them.
Yeah, but you can you can line it up so the sine wave stays consistent from the kick into the sub. Beautiful.
That's a super dope move.
Yeah.
I was gonna say also, like, this technique of like rolling it off can be used to make a really nice contrast. Like, say your 808 has a good attack and impact at the front, but the kick you're using has a bigger, meatier, beefier attack and thud to it. You can use that as a contrast. So some of the times the 808 hits, it has the kick layered and you roll off that initial kick of the 808. And other times you let the kick of the 808 be the kick, and it gives you that kind of dynamic push and pull of some of these kicks, like maybe it hits on the one and it's that super meaty kick, and then the offbeat one after the snare just has the 808 kick. And so it's got that big whomp and then a slightly less wompy womp.
Yeah. Hey, I got a question for you guys. Do you prefer audio or MIDI more for drums? And what's sort of your criteria for how you choose audio versus MIDI?
I can take it first. Audio.
Interesting.
For a lot of reasons. One, I like seeing the audio. I like seeing the waveforms in general. I like reading audio. I started by using Acid Music way back in the day, and that's all you could do was audio. And so I got really used to just reading the waveforms. I think reading waveforms is one of the most essential skills a producer can have in audio, basic audio editing. Plus, then there's so many little things you can do, like stutter edits, you know, turning this one down, pitching that one a little bit, you know, like you have a hi-hat pattern. You can take like every, you know, the second one and the third one get slightly, you know, less in amplitude. And then that fourth one hits you again. So it's like you've got this, you know, polyrhythm of the very subtle volume, and you can change the pitch on them a little bit, and you know, you can reverse one to go back into the one and get that little whoosh in of a like reversed hi-hat or a reverse kick or snare. You can do snare rolls really easy and like pitch them right there. And I mean, like FL is built to do that in the MIDI because the snare's on its channel and you can just use the piano roll. But like in a lot of other DAWs like Reason and Ableton, it's not really set up to do that. And then you have to go do a pitch automation and you're getting multiple layers of things that start to clutter up the session. Also, you know, I'll use MIDI to start my drums sometimes. Like I make drum kits and I put them in my templates, but I'll usually like use that to quickly bang it out on the pads. And then as soon as I have my patterns, I'll like make multiple lanes of the drum kit and flatten, bounce out each individual. Like, okay, there's the kick, there's the snare, there's like the second snare, there's the tom, whatever. And I'll just have each track on its own track just as a 2 or 4 bar loop. And then instead of later on having like this entire song length piece of wave file taking up a whole bunch of space on my hard drive, I just have a 4 bar loop that I can just copy paste across the track and have my sessions be significantly smaller. So lots
How
of reasons.
about synths?
Synths,
How far in do you bounce those down?
usually when I know that's what I want.
Yeah.
Like I'm my workflow is I'll usually either start in like a template, or maybe I'll just start on the fly and just start, you know, grabbing stuff out of my library and drag a synth in here and, you know, knowing where my stuff is. And then as soon as I feel like I've done most of the writing part and I have most of the loops I'm going to use, I'll flatten everything and transfer those stems into my mixing session and go into the template, assign everything to the correct buses, and do all my like phase 3 edits and all the fine details once it's all wave and once it's all, you know, once it's all in the mix session, because I like knowing what the mix is going to sound like and how all the elements are relating to each other in the balance before I do that final detail editing and finalize my arrangement. Because sometimes I might think like, oh, hey, you know, this sound doesn't really stand on its own, so I got to have a few stacked with it. But once you mix it and you got the frequencies just right and you added the reverb and the delay, all of a sudden that's a full ass sound. Oh, turns out that's the whole intro. I didn't need 4 other sounds with it. That's captivating by itself. And then I have a lot of escalation I can do from there. The one thing I usually keep in MIDI always is my sub bass patch. And that is because, like, if I'm just dragging an 808 from my library onto the sequencer and it's just like this little short waveform and that's what it is, that's wave. But if I have like a patch where I have a sub that is on a sampler and I'm using the sampler to play different notes and make it a bass line, I'll usually just leave that as MIDI the whole time, because I've found that, like, say I want to like change the tempo of the track when I'm partway through, like, this thing needs to be bumped up 4 BPM. Everything seems to seamlessly and transparently pitch, you know, in, you know, warp correctly. But at least in Reason, I've found that some of the time my sub basses will lose their clarity. Like something will just be slightly off about the warp, and then it'll just be like the pitch and the texture will be slightly grimy in a way that's not helpful. And I already picked this patch because I liked how it sounded. And one sampler, you know, I like getting down. Another reason I like getting down to wave is because all of those serum patches and all of those drum machines and all of those effects you've layered on shit, you flatten that. Now I have all of my CPU back to abuse Soothe and, various fab filter plugins and shit, like fucking run 9 different Pro Q3s on, whatever on linear phase, but one little sampler with a sub patch on it is taking up absolutely zero, maybe 0.5% of my total processing power. So it doesn't really matter, and I find that I get better results.
Nice.
So that's
Yeah,
my long-winded way versus MIDI. What about you, Evan?
I was gonna say I pretty much have nothing to add, but except for like drums. Okay, so everything in audio except my main kick and snare, because that MIDI routes up to my sidechain trigger and then back down to all the side chains. So basically, the MIDI of the kick and snare, I have it that way so I can literally just put a kick and snare in, and then I never have to set up the sidechain. It's just already working, which just saves time and also saves the issue of you liked how it sounded before the sidechain was fully going strong. I used to fall in that pitfall a lot. And then you kind of make this like half-ass compromise of like what your sidechain should be and like what you kind of liked the way before, how it sounded. But yeah, so then everything else audio, even like snare accent layers, I prefer to do in audio for the same reason as why I like to do hi-hats and other percussion. Like Luke said, if you have a hi-hat rhythm and you just got like repeating eighth notes, if you put that in MIDI, basically your controls are length and velocity in Ableton that are like really easily acceptable, like accessible. But when it's in audio, you can use the manual volume fades on those hi-hats to like just do little micro adjustments to how they accent. And so then it's like a drummer like playing a repeating eighth note rhythm, like not all of those are going to be the exact same. So unless you're doing like trap drums or something like for hip hop where it's like that's the sound, like it just sounds way more natural. And like Luke said, you can adjust the pitch of them, like just like in the audio sample in Ableton, just like grab that slider and just pull it up like 5 cents and then put the next one down 3 cents and pull this one up half a dB and this one down half a dB. And if you do volume plus detune plus a little bit of work on the fades, instantly all of those sound so much more natural. And you don't have to do a whole lot. If you have a repeating eighth note hi-hat pattern, just do like 8 is more than enough. And like most of the time I'll just do 4, duplicate the 4 and then like change a couple things on the next 4 and then like that's my 8 if it's like a repeating rhythm like that. But yeah, and then as far as bouncing stuff down to audio, I'm fucking terrible at this, man. Like I have serious commitment issues when it comes to audio. Like you got like that pluck in your build up that's like a complicated ARP, and you got like 10 lanes of automation on the reverb and the filter and the distortion and this and that and the other thing. And like every time you bounce, you're like, I think it opened up just like a little bit too much at the end. You kind of adjust it and take it back down. So I'm a tweaker. So I just like, even when I bounce something, I literally freeze it, turn it off, and then duplicate it and flatten it. So I have the copy to go back to.
I feel that. That's the same as me working in the 2-session method, where it's like this session is all MIDI. Everything, in case I messed up on this bounce, all I have to do is open that session, hit the tweaks, rebounce, and import. It's like it's a little. I feel you. I usually don't go back. It's like maybe 5% of songs I end up going back, but I always keep that initial session in the same folder, just like hanging out, just in case I need to go back and get something. Or if I decide I want to like loop menu something, then I'll just like grab that device, copy the whole device with its MIDI in, and then do my preset shredding and just flatten a bunch of things in a row or resample a bunch of things in a row. And then, like I said, usually it's when I think I'm probably done making loops is when I bounce everything. But often I'll go back from after phase 5, I've mastered the track, I'll listen to it and be like, nah, I need more variation. Let me go back to phase 1 and do more loop creation and more sound design. And just, we talk about the 5 phases a lot in the dojo. It starts with like sound design and loop creation. Then you move to arrangement, Phase 3 is details and transition. Phase 4 is the mix, and phase 5 is mastering. But I like to tell my students, like, this is like just a checklist of things that need to be done for the song to be done, but it is not in any way a concrete order of you have to finish this all the way before you move to that. Like, move through the process, get your first draft done, throw a mix and master on it, and then you'll certainly end up back in those earlier phases on your other drafts.
Yeah, amen. Also, for our Abletoners, if you add your project folder to the sidebar explorer thing on the left, you can actually open up those project folders and drag in channels from previous projects. So it's tight. If you save multiple versions, you just call chords MIDI or lead MIDI or whatever, and then you save a new version, bounce it down. If you ever got to go back, it's easy as drag and drop.
That's badass. I did not even know
Yeah,
that as a reason.
It's tight.
It is
technically owns
super
Ableton.
helpful. I will say that I'm still almost too lazy to do that sometimes, because sometimes it crashes Ableton when I pull in, because like the sound that I don't want to bounce is the one that's super complicated and has all these automations and crazy plugins and shit. And then, I mean, it's really rare, but everyone knows how much a crash can just take you out of flow state.
Yeah.
Even if you're just mixing the record, like, I just prefer not to have to do that. I use that all the time in the writing phase when I'm like, the project's still empty. I know that there's not a bunch of processor limitation that I'm running into, and I just like, oh, that one sound that I used in this other one, like that would be a good starting place to resample for this. Just pull it in. The only thing, if you're working in the same session and you do a save as, and then you continue and you're like, you haven't closed Ableton yet and you want to like go back and grab that, it's not going to be there yet. You got to close Ableton and reopen it, at least for me.
Really? I don't think that's the case. Maybe for you.
Well, yeah, I might have. I've wondered about this because my main folder where I keep my projects is on the cloud. It's like Apple iCloud, so that it's got a cloud backup. Plus, I have an external hard drive, like, backup, plus another separate OCD backup for projects that I like.
That's how you do it.
But I wonder if I have wondered if it's related to that, because it's like thing or whatever. I don't know.
One thing to note as well, that rescan plugins button in the preferences works for all of your folders and your
does it really? I've always wondered that. Like,
yeah.
Good.
Well, there's my answer.
Yeah.
Hey.
So
you learn something new every day, boys.
So happens when you listen to the podcast.
And I just want to say, just throw this out there.
Yeah.
One of the cool things about Reason is you can have multiple project windows open at the same time. And that's why the methods I'm talking about work so well for Reason specifically. It's because, like, I don't have to like bounce all my stems all the way out and then close that session and open a new one and then import all these stems. All I have to do is, like, I'm in the MIDI session where I'm banging all the loops out, and then I'm like, oh, this is pretty lit. Grab them all, right click and say bounce in place, which is a one-step freeze and flatten process where it leaves the MIDI there. It just mutes the MIDI clip and replaces it with an audio clip in one click. And then all I have to do is open my mixing template. It pops open. I copy all the audio tracks, select all the audio tracks, hit copy, and hit paste in the new session. And it goes bloop. And then I save and close the MIDI session. And if I ever need to grab something, I just open the MIDI session, have it on the next screen, and copy paste it, drag it over. Like, it's
amazing.
Less of a hassle because of the Reason reality where I can just have multiple windows open where that can't happen in Ableton.
Honestly,
but
like,
you guys have that cool cheat code of being able to drag and drop shit from your project from inside your library window. That's nuts.
Yeah, but what you were just talking about is actually, I think, better.
I think so too.
Because that just you'd have more control. But yeah, I like my giant mess of a project always takes like 5 minutes or more to load sometimes. So it's like, and Ableton usually crashes when I quit the giant mess of a project file. And like it can't think hard enough to like close all of the.
It's like, you're fired. No, I quit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Luckily, it saves before it tries to quit the project. So
That's good. At least there's that. But no, I
Yeah.
feel you. That's why I tell all my students who are like dealing with this issue, and most of my students are Ableton users, just like, yo, like if you're getting to this point where it's like you don't want to get rid of these things and you're scared to delete your MIDI, just hit save as and then delete all the MIDI. So in case you need to go back to it, it is right there in that other project. It's never actually gone. But now this new version of your session just has so much more RAM and CPU available for you.
dude, I'm so
Amen.
OCD. So my old laptop, my MacBook Pro mid 2012 or whatever, used to have such bad crashing issues with Ableton when I got a busy project that anytime I like loaded up like a complicated instrument rack of something that I saved, I would do a save as, because I know if I add this thing and it crashes and then I try to open the project again, I might not be able to open it again. Like that happened to me on my Mac, and literally would be like, sometimes it would open and I'd be like, hold my breath, like, oh fuck, project open. And then I would like try and like tiptoe down and like delete something. And then if I try to delete like 3 tracks at once, it would crash again. Then I gotta like try and restart my computer 5 times to open it. Dude, it was a nightmare.
Is this why
Been
Seth
there.
Drake calls it unstableton?
Potentially. But literally I got such an OCD from that now, like, dude, by the time I have a finished project, I probably have like, it's gotten better. It used to be like 100 save ases. Now it's down to like 60
I like the term
Hey.
save ases.
save ases.
I'm gonna start saying that. I like
Save
that
your
a lot.
ases.
Number of ases.
Save your
saved.
ass.
I
Save
just
your
had a-
ass with the
I was
save ass.
talking to a student the other day that was saying he like every time he makes a change, he hits save as on the project, and so like all of his projects have like 10 or 15 versions. I'm like, man, I cannot do that to myself.
10 or 15.
Oh, 10 or
that's it.
15. That's cute.
Bruh, like
Whoa.
that's what I'm saying.
Level
I
up,
can't
bro.
even do that shit. I'm like, I used to do 3 because my old computer couldn't handle a mixing chain of plugins and a mastering chain of plugins at the same time. On this new computer, it's got the beef to do it. So 2. I have the MIDI session and the mix master session, and that's it. 2 sessions per song every single time, unless I have some like catastrophic mix problem and need to start the mix over. And then I just hit save as, zero everything out, and
Yeah, okay,
keep that
but
one as
like,
a reference.
what about when you have like a really finicky patch in Serum and it's like almost there, but you know that you need to make a bunch of changes inside the synth and you're not going to be able to undo everything that you're doing cleanly? You don't save as?
I mean, I don't have a lot of finicky patches.
Sounds like a
I
Rip
don't
Kenny
be,
problem.
I don't design my Serum patches. I wait for Rip Kenny and Tesco to come up with a new batch and send them to me, or I go buy the Cryptochronica and Hexus ones like I just did on Black Friday. Callback.
Yeah.
But
Man, I
yo,
just
like,
mud pie it till it sounds right.
I'm
Can I
telling
just
you,
say,
the
though-
best patches are extra finicky. I'm telling you.
can I just say though, finicky patch sounds like a beautiful, beautiful countryside in Ireland. Oh, I just came back from finicky patch.
That's
was
so
so
funny.
finicky.
As soon as you said that, when you were going on that point, I thought the exact same thing. So yes, confirmed.
All
It
right.
does.
Well, shouts to Finicky Patch. That's all the time we got for today,
All our listeners in
humans.
Finicky Patch, we love
Yeah.
you. You're
Finicky Patch Ireland shouts.
You're my favorite part of Ireland.
And
Hey,
also just
favorite
big shouts
patch.
to Columbus, Ohio, for some reason, our highest listened to place in the country,
Woo!
in the world still. So,
Columbus kicks ass.
woo!
I like all
Shout
of
out to Columbus.
Except that guy, because, genocide.
What?
Peace among worlds. Fuck Christopher Columbus.
Peace.
I like it.
What's up, humans? It's Luke, your friendly neighborhood trap Jesus. Thanks so much for watching the podcast, checking out our videos. We truly appreciate you. So, Rip Kenny, Tesco, and myself got you a gift. We made you a free sample pack. It's got basses, it's got FX, it's got crazy percussion and Foley sounds, and it's free. It's all yours. Just click the link in the description below. Also, make sure to hit that subscribe, hit that like button, and share this with your friends. We appreciate you. Peace out and peace among worlds.